Okay, we are recording. Dr. Joe Whitaker, welcome to the Terrain Theory Podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me, guys. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you. I've been a big fan of you guys for quite a while and all the stuff you're doing. So this is going to be great.
It is going to be great. And you are the first guest of 2026. So, that's a special seat you are occupying right now.
Great. Thank you. Welcome to the new Roman year, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Joe, I think one of the things I want to know, and I'm sure the audience is going to want to know too, is how does someone with a PhD and a background in genetics and microbiology and immunology go from that to immersing yourself in the world of crystals and water consciousness and energy healing?
Well, that's quite a journey. But I would say I have always questioned things, but I did go through the route. My first degree was in genetics and microbiology. My master's degree was in oncology, and my PhD was actually in genetic vaccines. So I have a very specific set of skills, as somebody might say, right? And when 2020 hit, and they started talking about the injections, I was absolutely shocked because I thought, well, the science is pretty settled on this. You'll never create a memory B cell response, so you will never get immunity. You have to constantly re-injecting. It is not the right strategy for an external pathogen because you're looking for a genetic Th1 response. And so I thought the world had gone absolutely crazy. And even though I had my qualifications, I was telling my friends, my family, that this wasn't right, that this distancing was right. I mean, I worked in the lab. There's no way that putting a mask on your face like that would work. And I was seeing people who knew me and loved me completely disregard what I said. And even though I was showing them papers that our team had published or other teams had published, I was completely ignored. And this made me realize that something very significant was going on with the consciousness of people. Like people were somehow being mind controlled. It's the best way to describe it. And I know there was a lot of propaganda on the television, but it stretched much further than that. So I deep dove into many, many different things. And I was researching 5-6 hours a night. And this is what led me to really see what I'd been taught, which is kind of one side of the coin, and start researching. And there's lots of papers actually out there to prove this kind of stuff to yourself. And I realized that I was only ever taught certain cherry-picked pieces of information. And when you put the whole piece of the puzzle together, the conclusions are not the same. And I was really motivated to help people detox from their environment and from these injections, because I knew that the consequences would be horrific. I mean, it was obvious they were going to be. And I wanted to, therefore, make a difference. So during that deep dive, I, read Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book on, the real Anthony Fauci. And that's when the penny dropped. And I was like, okay, so it's all of the vaccines that are problematic. That isn't the fundamental way our immune system works. And I started to kind of unpick how the experiments are done, how academia works, which I've had a lot of experience in kind of how that whole system works. Everyone's very motivated to get the answers that they're being paid to give. So I can talk about that in a bit if you want to. But I had a very open mindset. I wasn't interested in defending my PhD and my previous position. I was very motivated to help undo what I saw as a catastrophic damage that was going to be happening to people over the next few years. So that's kind of led me down that massive garden path. And then I ended up really understanding the quantum nature of our reality, the very building blocks of what we're made of. And that's when I created Crystal Water Experience, to bring all of that knowledge together so that we can not see this world necessarily just in terms of like 3D things that we put in our body or interact with, there's a quantum nature, and it's something we don't get taught, but it's quite easy to get your head around, and it's also, you can see it and experience it, hence the crystal water experience. You can experience the interaction with the quantum fields. So what I've basically ended up doing is conveying very complex information in a very easy to understand layman's way to help people come to this understanding that what you get taught in the physical sciences, that everything is solid and, you know, there are atoms and all this kind of stuff, that actually that is a very crude approximation to what's actually happening in the world around us. And viruses are a brilliant example of that, but they're one of many examples that, you know, we really shouldn't be focusing on that. If you understand the quantum nature of our reality, it does much more viable explanations.
Yeah, for the causes of, say, disease or illness, right? That this is maybe happening on a different level and not just the physical or atomic level. I want to go back. I want to go back real quick because you mentioned RFK Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, as being instrumental in exposing vaccines as a whole as questionable. What were some of the other figures that helped you sort of like unravel this education that you had?
Actually, there's many. So Dr. Kaufman, Tom Cohen, but many people that I've picked up along the way. One of the first people in the UK that I connected with, because I didn't find anybody else awake for 18 months, right? Not one single person. I didn't find Telegram, right? So I was very isolated. I was on Facebook providing papers and information in a very kind of calm and scientific way, and being censored by just random fact checkers on Facebook. And this is what really made me realize, wait a minute, this is like controlled. And it took me a long time, but the first person was Prof. Eden. I don't know if you've heard of him. So he used to be a Pfizer executive. And when I first of all connected then to Facebook, to Telegram, it was kind of a while after the rollout. And he started talking about all the things that I'd only predicted. Now, you see, I'm not a magician. This is obvious. This stuff is going to happen. It's not like rocket science if you are in this area, but it's a very specialized area, but it isn't difficult. And that gave me a lot of kind of comfort on the one hand, but it also made me realize that all the other stuff that I'd been reading, which is about, do viruses really exist? What really is our immune system? What else should we be learning? That really gave me a lot of cause to think, oh my God, then there's a lot of things that we need to sort out, because it's much deeper than, you know, than what we've been taught before. So I was kind of really horrified and really glad in a way that I wasn't going crazy, because I honestly thought that it was either me going crazy or this world was completely crazy, and I didn't want to belong to it. But that
Mm.
is how bad it was.
You're a rarity in that you have this background, this academic background in all of these disciplines that are really all framed by or underpinned by germ theory. And yet, as you emerge from that, I mean, even to the extent that you have a PhD, and as you emerge from that, you still are able to retain an open enough mind to take in and assimilate new information that contradicts your entire education. And there aren't many in your position who are able to do that. I think first and foremost because most folks, in order to draw a salary or get a job, have to continue to believe the thing that they've been taught. They can't challenge it. We're not allowed to if you want your paycheck. Um, and yet you were willing to do that. And you're willing to do that at a time where you were being censored. Obviously, you're trying to inform friends as to the risks of these mRNA vaccines that are coming out. So you put your friendships at risk. No doubt you're putting your families at risk. You're putting potential future employment at risk because you're contradicting anything that, you know, your colleagues are saying. Um, how to what do you attribute that? Is this part of like your upbringing that you have this open mind, this willingness to challenge preconceived notions?
It's a really interesting question. So yes, I have never fitted in, and when I was a child, I was always ostracized for one reason or another. Like, not being being too smart or being too this or being too that. So I learned actually dealing with people. My parents always said to me, just because they're bullying you, don't worry, one day you'll be successful, and they won't be. And I saw that for myself, right? And so I'm not really interested in what other people say. I'm here for, for the good of humanity always. I have my own central integrity, and I don't need to pin that on any kind of title. I use my title really only to open the possibility to people that just because you've got a title, it doesn't mean that we're all saying the same thing, which is the other thing that they try to parrot fashion. So I would say I am unprogrammable. I'm very, very unprogrammable. That's my natural state. But I think a lot of people have been programmed, and it isn't. I see exactly what you're saying, by the way, about the money in the title, and you've got your next paycheck, and you're on the hamster wheel. But I think mind control goes a lot further than that. They are far more advanced on mind control than people perhaps realize, and it's all about sovereignty and protecting your biofield. And this is what it's all about. It all comes down to the quantum nature of our reality, and our own integral biofield. But just to answer your question, I did actually leave academia after doing those qualifications because I could see the corruption of how, a lot of things are sold in kits. A lot of things is done by computer simulation. You can only publish in certain journals. The peer review process goes to certain people. People are motivated or not motivated to agree with your paper. There's the funding sources in the UK, you're not allowed to research anything or get money for something that isn't in a funding call. So it's decided by such a few, such a relative few number of people. But I did work with scientists, though, to try and help turn, because I was like, I can't work in academia because this is a nightmare. But there are some great ideas that scientists have and that engineers have that could make humanity better. So they new products and services. But by the time you do research, it's kind of like back of the fag packet, right? And so in order to convert that into a product is kind of understanding how you properly test something, not how you did it in experiments, but how can you, reproduce this? How can you manufacture this? How can you beta test it and all this kind of stuff? So I went into engineering, science, like chemical engineering, manufacturing of powders, 3D printing, many different technologies for the next 20 years, which were, so therefore I deep dove into many different disciplines. So I have a really wide background in seeing and basically being a tech scout, anything from a tech scout to a director of products at a global level. So I've seen the whole process, right, in a broad range of different industries. And that made me think that I'm, especially when you're kind of a project manager or a product manager, you're looking from the outside, this isn't my baby. This has to be done for the good of the people using the product. Everybody has to gain, from the people making it to the people selling it to the people using it. And so I've always had a very holistic view of things, and I don't want to just, I'm not sitting here in my corner just saying, right, this is just what I think, because it isn't. It's everything's a team game. Everything is about collaboration. And I saw through that whole process some amazing technologies that are still sitting on the shelf now because somebody is very stubborn and they don't want to collaborate with people. They don't want to listen. And they are still in the same place now, 20 years later.
Mm.
The only way forward is for everybody to stick to what they're good at and collaborate and cooperate together. That is the way forward for humanity. And that always has been, actually.
Preach. That's beautiful. It sounds like you've arrived where we've arrived regarding the legitimacy of virology and all that. But I'm really curious, and this is a relatively recent uh, understanding, right? Like with the advent of COVID and that whole rollout. But back when you were studying genetic vaccines and the alarm bell still went off for you, it sounds like in the old paradigm. Like, what was it about those injections that raised the red flag?
Well, the reason why they were making the vaccines then is we were going after cancer targets. Yeah. So what they were saying, and this is, and if you can only observe what you measure. This is what I tell people all the time. You only know what you're measuring. If you don't measure it, you don't know. So that they knew that the immune system was shut down in cancer patients. Now, what they were saying is there were certain factors released by tumours which switched the immune system from a Th1, which is looking into cells and finding dodgy cells and apoptosis them and killing them, and it switched your body into an inflammatory response, which is a Th2 response. So your immune system will be looking for invaders on the outside of your cell, not knowing that the bad guys were inside. Now, so a lot of this stuff can be measurable, but the cause and effect, I think they've got the wrong way round. But the reason why I was dubious is we were trying to get people's bodies to switch from a Th2 to a Th1 response. So we were stimulating them with their own antigens and then telling the immune system, this is dangerous. Hey, get back to your job and go and apoptose and destroy those cells which are overexpressing antigens. Because in tumour cells, they overexpress antigens, and T cells can actually go around your blood, your cells. And if they see too many of something, they know something's wrong and they can go and kill it. But the thing is when you think about that, well, by the time I joined, the team had been doing this for 10 years. And my PhD specifically was on why did we choose this antigen? And the reason why we were researching it is making sure that it was safe, right? Is it going to be safe and is it going to be effective? Why have we chosen this? So we were looking at what its natural state is in the body. And to this day, that drug is not on the market because it was neither proven safe nor effective, by the way. And so this is many years later. So whilst at the time, I believed that paradigm, I could also see that in the laboratory, and this is what people don't understand about papers published, people have to repeat experiments. Then they get it right because it's got the results that they're looking for. And then that gets published because it's got the right number of controls. So many experiments, I'd say 99% of experiments that are done in the lab are never published because they don't give them the results that they want. Okay? And so people are stuck on this treadmill. Like, if you want to get funding, you have to get funding from a place researching a certain thing, and then at the end of your research, you have to publish the results, and you can only publish them in the papers that they tell you you're allowed to publish them with. And the only people that review your papers are your competitors. Let's not call them peers because they're competitors one way or another. And so if you don't follow that process, you don't get any more money. And most people in academia, I don't know what it's like in America, but most people don't actually get full-time paid permanent contracts until they're in their late 30s, 40s. Everybody's on like 6 month, 2 year, 3 year contracts. And that's just like, it's so everybody's motivated, or people are really motivated not to not play the game. And I just refused to be a part of that. I wanted to see things that were authentic, that were definitely going to change, the course of humanity. And I've seen lots of things actually that were really amazing, but are still not products now. It's like,
yeah.
What's
So
going
it
on?
sounds like you've been skeptical really your whole life, but with the advent of the rollout of COVID, that really put your feet to the fire and made you really dig down deep to look at what was going on.
This is exactly right. And when it all hit, I thought, how many people actually have that whole background in terms of discipline, but then that broad range of science and technology? There's only a handful of people. There's literally only a handful of people that have been able to see that. I mean, also to be able to see genetics, microbiology, and then oncology, the cancer stuff, which we know is coming, and the genetic vaccines. It's a very, very rare combination. And this is a problem with science, that everybody's isolated. But I'd also been able to see manufacturing processes in the pharmaceutical industry. So I worked with people who were developing new bioassays, for instance, looking at new chemical markers that might tell you if you've got breast cancer. And I've been working with people who, created new drug regimes and all this kind of stuff. So I had that whole picture. And I knew, obviously, I mean, it's obvious now, isn't it? I mean, it is not possible to have built those vaccines in the timescale that they said. It's just simply not possible. It's not credible. So I could see it from all angles, from specifically the science, and actually specifically from science rather than the science, which I think is kind of like a made-up cult version of it. It's like the science. So none of that made sense. None of the medical regulations made sense. But also from pharmacovigilance and compliance and manufacturing, not possible.
Wild. Yeah, it's wild that even when you were in the old paradigm, you still knew it was impossible. Now you're in a completely different place and it's even more obvious. But I love that back then you were still blowing the whistle.
I was still talking about this, and especially when I then started working with other academics. So I would be reviewing. So this is me, like just freshly out my PhD, and I'd start reviewing big professors with big budgets and everything. Hey, I've got this great technology, and I think it could be a world beater. And I was sitting there going through their research, no, and realizing, I don't know how you've done your research, but when you actually do it properly, it doesn't work. And nine times, and you ask any academic, how many papers published can somebody independently validate? And you won't find many. The ones that are, it's like 9 out of 10 you can't. You can't repeat them. And this is because they also, because they're not trained, they don't understand the quantum nature of our reality, our relationship with water, they don't understand any of that kind of stuff. But now a lot of things are done in kits. And look, but back in my day, well, I don't think I'd ever be saying this, but now I'm going to say this. Like, back in my day, we used to make a lot of the reagents ourselves, and we never used to rely on kits very much. So, but nowadays, the scientists being churned out are using kits. So they're using reagent A, add reagent A to reagent B. Don't worry, what's in reagent A is a gene construct of, let's say, COVID. And you think, well, how did you make the gene COVID of construct? Well, because it was in a database, and then we used this other kit to be able to simulate it. That they're all going round a hamster wheel. They're just repeating the same things. It's absolute, science is not science anymore.
Yeah, there's this difference between little s science, which is the methodology, really, right? The investigation and to understand our world, and then big science, which is just now just controlled and funded, and it's really it's disheartening. It's at the same time disheartening, and I feel a little bit hopeful that there's all this territory that has yet to be covered by science because none of the funding has gone into things like all the things that you're exploring and you're trying to actually investigate with your scientific mind, and that is water's consciousness, the quantum consciousness, energy healing, crystals, things like that. I just think about what would happen if all this funding went into these areas that we know there's some validity there, but there's just been there haven't been the experiments. We haven't used the scientific method to investigate those areas. So it's like it's like living in, let's just say, the 1600s, if we're to accept history, living in the 1600s or 1500s and being like, how much of the world out there is still yet to be explored, and that excitement that would come from explorers to be like, I want to be the first, here, there, and everywhere. And we get to be that in many ways. We get to be there because we know that we haven't done it. The science has not explored these topics, and we feel from an intuition standpoint that the answers are there, right? There's land there. We want to go find it. There's answers there. We want to go find it. And all that's really missing is just the will and then the funding.
You've just said it beautifully, and I'll say it live on this podcast. I would say 95% of the things that I've been taught, I'm quite happy to say, needs to belong in the bin. And I've stopped kind of reading books and I've started experiencing things, because when I went through a detox, I detoxed my pineal gland, and people said that I was quite smart before. Now I am so switched on, and I download information. I know how things work, and then exactly the confirmation of that comes to me. But the work that we're doing, just to bring on what you've said, is pioneering, that we're doing in Crystal Water Experience. It's not in any books. I'd never be able to publish it, because in publications I'd have to say, based on so and such's work, we're able to show this. We can't, because we've created this new technology, which we call quantum frequency trace technology. Now, if I would have started with a book, let's just read, even if it was like some of the pioneers out there, like Tesla, I would have gone down a completely different path, because my mindset would be like, well, 1 + 1 is 2, magnetism plus so-and-so is this. Whereas what we've discovered, it's way beyond that, because I haven't limited ourselves in starting from a position of somebody else's. And this is happening to a lot of people. I mean, I'll tell you a little story about what's happening to people out there. And I want to encourage everyone listening to this to tune into yourself, because everybody's got a role to play in this new earth, best way to describe it. You need to find your role, and you'll become very, very strong at it. If you try and do something else, you're just going to always be playing catch up. So find your role, because whatever role that is going to be very successful. And a little story is these people, and they can be random people, right? They can be engineers, or someone with a science background or not with a science background, or some of the people, right, that haven't even got a maths qualification, are starting to download quantum codes, mathematics. And I'm really privileged, because I'm a connector and a communicator, that people seem to find me, right? And they say, hey, Joe, I bummed out of maths, but I've downloaded this equation, and it means this, and I don't know how I know it, but this is it. And because a lot of people do that to me, I can see that, person A in, I don't know, Italy, and person B in America are giving me the same information. Now, and it's not published, none of this is. So the only way that can be happening is if we are quantumly connecting to a database of information. And the more that you detox your body, the more that you can access that information. And that's where the future is. And I'll tell you, although we're in pioneering territory, the whole quantum nature of our reality is way more simple than the 3D science. So I think 90% of research at universities and what they're taught needs to go in the bin, simplify it. And there needs to be a lot more emphasis on people going to explore and experiment using the knowledge that we already have. So I think it'd be a lot easier in the future, because the world is nowhere near as complicated as they've made it out to be.
That's really inspiring to hear. Can we just pump the brakes a second? When you said you detoxed your pineal gland, can you walk us through what you did?
Yeah, sure. And if people want to find out exactly how I did this as well, they can go to the website, because I've got a free detox guide, and I've been teaching people how to do this for a long time. So I'm going to do it in a summary. But the most important, the key, the very first thing everybody needs to do is get off the matrix water. Right? So information is encoded in hydrogen. And so you imagine that hydrogen is a frequency, and we can go into this in more detail, right? But we're talking about mind control, but we're also talking about the cleanliness of the body. What I realised is that everything is about charge, okay? Everything that we're doing is about charge. And anything that is a toxin is a positively charged magnetic field, quantum field. Okay, it's all about charge. Anything that is good for us is negatively charged. Okay, and I don't necessarily mean that in the electric, like an electrician would say it, and I don't mean that in terms of maybe what a chemist might understand this to be as well. In the quantum world, the very smallest pieces that we are made up of, there are vortex fields which rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise. So hydrogen, for instance, has a positive or a negative charge. Now, Hydrogen, when you look at it from a chemist point of view or a physics atomic, they'll just say it's hydrogen. But no, it is a spinning charge field. But when we look at, we use, which is what you were talking about before, when we use technology that's the wrong technology to be able to measure stuff, you can never know. So if you look at an oscilloscope, you might see a frequency wave that's kind of like a sine wave that goes up and down. What you can't see using that device is actually it is a rotating field that to you looks like it's going up and down because you've flattened it. But if I do exactly the same motion and I'm turning my fingers, that looks the same, but I'm not, I'm rotating this a different way, right? So it's a
Yeah.
direction of spin of the magnetic field that of that particular element that is then creating something that's either in harmony or disharmony with you. The smallest quantum wave in terms of elements is hydrogen because it's the number one. Now, imagine this. You probably know that you're made of 60 or 70% water, right? Now, they're talking about weight and volume. If you think about more how much hydrogen are you made of, you are pretty much made of hydrogen with some oxygen, bit of carbon, bit of nitrogen, hardly anything of anything else. You are basically made up of these rotating fields. Now imagine that you are looking at your whole picture of yourself zoomed out. Okay, and this is like, so you've got, if you were to, I was to zoom in and I had a microscope, but that's the wrong technology to be able to view this, I would be made of lots and lots of these vortex fields. And if I was to zoom all the way in to see these, it would look like I'm built of a massive racetrack and I've got billions and billions of cars all going around the same way on this racetrack. Now, what a toxin is some dickhead going the wrong way around that track. That disrupts the flow. And it doesn't matter whether I'm talking about EMF radiation, I'm talking about a bacteria that is not in harmony with us. If I'm talking about, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. It is some idiot going the wrong way and disrupting the flow. And what do? Well, if you've ever been on the bumper cars, you get the man come out, right? And he picks them, it's usually a teenage boy, isn't it? No. And rotates them to get them to go around the right way. It's the same naughty teenage kid, right? But he's now going the right way around the track. That hasn't changed from that perspective, but his direction of spin has. So when you understand that, when I'm talking about the matrix water is positively charged, right? You are putting an awful lot of this incorrectly charged hydrogen into your body, and your whole guys on your track have to spend their time fixing that to get them to travel around the track in the right way instead of cracking on and doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is racing around the track as fast as you can. So the water you drink is extremely important, and people might have understood or heard the word structured water, right? This is really about putting the right charge of hydrogen into your body. And when you do that, the hydrogen and the oxygen then form structures because their charge allows them to do that in a way they couldn't do before. And they form the smallest 3D platonic solid, because I don't really believe in spheres because they don't appear in nature, right? Which is the tetrahedron. And say if you go in to remember your high school kinds of what shapes things are, it's a triangle. So it's got three triangular sides and a triangular base. So that is the smallest kind of geometry within which everything else operates. Everything else you can fit tetrahedrons within. So you can fit tetrahedrons within a square. Let's say carbon's a square, right? You can fit them in. So it is the smallest. But do you know what's really interesting? And this is how this all kind of links together. Is silicon dioxide, which is more commonly known as sand or even quartz crystal, is also a tetrahedron. And that's why crystals and water talk together. Now, you are made of water, the fourth phase of water, and crystals. That is how your building blocks of you are made up. And that is where all your information is stored. All the fastest computers in the world, quantum computers are made of water and crystals, same as you. So the most important thing you can do is to put the right charge of water in your body. And then when you add salt to it, you put in, let's say on the 3D level, okay, I'm going to put Celtic grey sea salt in because it's got 86 minerals. On the quantum level, I am putting in lots more of those cars around my track because I need different cars, right? If you've ever done a Lego set, if you're a poor kid like I was, right, you only have the red blocks, don't you? And there's only so much you can build. So you need a lot of different cars going around your track. They all need to be going the same way. And anybody that's been naughty, any toxins in your body, you need to turn them round to do that. And hydrogen is the most productive way of doing that. And you produce the right type of hydrogen from your mitochondria. Your mitochondria is producing this negatively charged hydrogen, and that is helping your body to combat all the toxic stress or the dickheads going the wrong way around your track. The fundamental thing, when you change your water, you change everything. And I can go through the other processes, but I would say to people say to me, should I do parasite cleanse? Should I do this, that, and the other? I'm like, 50% of what people are suffering with goes, because I've detoxed thousands of people, goes when they stop drinking the matrix water, because they just put in dickheads going around their own track in the body all the time and they're wondering why they're sick. Put that in, because that hydrogen can get into your cells via your aquaporin, and they are the engine, those negatively charged hydrogens, they are the fuel for your mitochondria to allow your mitochondria to produce hydrogen peroxide. So the key is water and mitochondrial health. If people go to the website, I talk them through this. Obviously, you've got to fix your gut, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, but really there's 5 steps. And the number one is the most critical. Get off that matrix water, people.
Wow.
And
Where do
yeah,
you
okay, good.
tend to source your structured water or create it? How do you go about that?
Very interesting question. So obviously, if you've got a very nice spring, that's great. Most of the springs have been concreted up in the UK over the years, and they've taken that away. But you can do it. So I distill my water, and that takes out the memory. So that is a steam from water. So the steam comes up like your kettle, but it catches it and it drips into another container. What you have then is a lot of hydrogen and oxygen, but it's dead water. It doesn't have a charge, but it also doesn't have any encoded information, which if you want me to go in the encoded information, we'll talk about that as well, because I can explain that. So it's really interesting. But all you have to do to charge that up, you just put a few grains of salt in, and I don't mean that toxic waste product called table salt. I mean high mineral salt. So it's just grey, unprocessed salt from a reliable source. But you can add shilajit, or you can have fulvic minerals if you like. I mean, I quite like shilajit, but fulvic minerals are a bit bitter for me. But you can't, if you put too much salt in, right, and it tastes salty, you've put too much in. You just need a few grains. You can actually measure the electrical charge of that water using a voltmeter, which costs you about £8, whatever it is in dollars, like $10 or something. You can measure that there's more electricity in that, which means there's more electrical potential in your body. And then all you need to do, it's so simple, everyone. You just get yourself some food safe copper, so pure copper, and you just spin it in a vortex. You can do it clockwise, then anti-clockwise, and that's it. You do it like maybe 20 times one way, 20 times another. So you get yourself a jug in the, you get yourself your jug, swirl it round, swirl it round. People say, how do you know that works? Well, we've done growing experiments. Best way to do this, I want you to encourage you guys to go and do this. Some of the experiments that we've done. You just get some chlorine-free tissue, because chlorine is very toxic and it's in the tap water over here. And you just put it in like little Petri dishes on the side. Don't contaminate this, right? By the way, everybody, don't touch one and then another, because you will transfer energy from one. So keep them separate, but in an environment. Add some fenugreek seeds, because they grow very fast. So you just put 9 on this tissue. And then for each Petri dish or little dish that you've got, which you can buy quite cheaply, You put the different water on. So you can put your tap water on, you can put your just distilled water on, you can put your distilled water with salt in, you can put your distilled water when you've spun it round, and you watch how fast they germinate. They're all on the same day. And you can see within 48 hours, you can see what happens. And then you think, okay, if that's got the right coherence and the right charge for the seeds to germinate, it is for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
quick
so it's very
story.
simple.
I live less than an hour from Tom Cowan, so I've been to his house a couple times, and he's become an avid gardener. It's basically what he does, um, and he's done much like you're saying. Do the experiment. So he gave me this bag of lettuce because it was like October. It was the end of the season. This like almost like this garbage bag full of greens that he had grown, and they lasted in my fridge for months without going bad. And even my children commented on how delicious the lettuce was. Like my kids don't comment on lettuce as a rule, but they were commenting how delicious this lettuce was. And because I saw how he grew it, he did all the things you're talking about. He vortexed the water using copper. He even started the seeds out in little tiny copper planters. Usually they just be paper or cardboard or mostly honestly plastic, but he's growing the seeds in copper planters and then using structured water. And now you have greens like you've never tasted before. So I just wanted to add that to your story of experience.
I'm loving that Tom does that. I'd love to meet Tom one day. I've seen him on the screen so many times.
Yeah,
But
right.
so bringing in the right charge makes a difference. I'm going to kind of take us a little one step further into somewhere that probably possibly people haven't heard before. So when people talk about frequency, and I'm talking about these sine waves, and I'm saying but you can't tell the direction of spin of the field before. What you can understand is that we have two realities happening at the same time, right? And there's one where things will appear to you and they will look exactly the same, right? So so if we were to look at that lettuce and we were to smell it or whatever, it would look the same as the supermarket one. It's only when you start looking at more deeply into its properties, and actually the juiciness and then the moisture content is a very big giveaway. So there are many things that you look around at now. When everyone look around your room, you've got many things sitting in the matrix in your room, right? Your body can't tell the difference. You can't tell by looking or touching it. It still feels real to you. And if you've ever used VR headsets, you'll know your body cannot tell the difference even with the simulated lift drop, which is terrifying the life out for me when I did it, right? Your body is very easily fooled. However, when it comes, you only find out later, like longevity. So if you realise that actually the Matrix, the film, was kind of right, but in a subtle way it was incorrect. Like when he woke up, he was waking up in this organic reality and it was all crap, right? No. Everybody is walking around now and some things are in the matrix and some things are not. They're in a different charged field that your perception cannot tell the difference between, but you experience it through your health as to whether it is or not. So another way to explain this is imagine that I've got one orchestra playing and I want to play lots of different frequencies. And okay, so I give this orchestra, this is me, this is my organic self. And I'm playing Beethoven over here. And I'm tuning everything to 432 hertz, right? If I've got an orchestra next to it and I've tuned that whole orchestra slightly out of phase and it is at 440 hertz, even though they are in harmony and in tune with each other, the two things will clash. It will sound awful when they're layered on top of each other and your body will, they sound really weird. So then imagine that we're living in a world where, but if you listen to one orchestra on their own, you think that sounds great, right? It's when you hear them together that you can start seeing the difference. And that is what's happening with everything in terms of our food and everything. Everything's been slightly shifted. But the other thing that I would argue is that most people become sick because of a deficiency or the wrong charge And so therefore, imagine my orchestra is playing, but I haven't got like the cellos. It's not going to sound right. I need to make sure I've got the frequency of the cellos in there. But if I've got another orchestra next to me and I've put the wrong cellos pitched at the wrong thing, it's not going to help, right? So everything has to be in harmony, but it has to be in harmony with me and the earth, not tuned to the wrong frequency, which will be in tune with itself. And that's the problem, is much of our world, including the mobile phones, which is what we do. We harmonize the body and harmonize food in order to bring the resonant frequency in the direction of spin back into the organic. So we do this experiment, which you might be interested in, Mike, where we can quantumly charge water and put information into that water, code it, the hydrogen, to connect it to the earth. So we ground people and things to the earth quantumly. So not the time of grounding that electricians talk about, which is like the release of static electricity. I'm talking about quantumly correcting to a different field, an organic field which is here everywhere, right? It's not just outside. We do an experiment where we get some grapes that we've just bought from the supermarket, which have been sprayed with stuff, which we teach our students how to measure, because we don't tell them where it's from. Where is this from? And they measure it using the techniques which are in our level 1 course, which is on our website. If people want to learn how to do this, the more the merrier. And they'll say, oh, it's not good for us. It's in the wrong charge, right? It still looks like grapes. When we spray some of our coherent water on it, what we do is we separate the grapes, put them in 2 separate piles, and secretly we'll charge one lot of grapes and not the other. And then we let people taste test it. And overwhelmingly, the grapes that have been charged, people say, are juicier, and the flavour is more balanced compared with the other one. So we can flip the charge of things quantumly using quantum programming, basically quantum coding. And that's what we call our quantum frequency trace technology, which is it's a game changer. Which is what you're saying about pioneering, Ben? This is an absolute game changer. And I think more people need to understand that the power of their mind that's what they are doing. They can quantumly change the information and field, whatever they're putting their hands around with. So in our level 1 course, we teach people how to do this, how to measure this, how to do experiments with positive and negative control, and then say, go out in the world and go and measure some stuff and tell us what you find. Because you don't need complicated, expensive equipment. You can learn how to do this.
And it sounds like you're using coherent or structured water as the medium or the tool with which you adjust this, the spin, as it were.
Yes. So we are changing the spin, but we're also encoding it, which is a new thing. You're 100% right. And the way that I explain this is okay, so when people are charging something, it's like I've got the 2 orchestras going at the same time, right? And one's in phase and one isn't. If I want to make something more coherent, I can turn the volume up for the orchestra, right? So I'll just add more cello players, right? And I'll just make them play louder. And they drown out the other guys. And overwhelmingly, those sound waves will be harmonized. What we're doing is we are writing the music. So we're also increasing the number of, so we're writing the music, we're giving the musicians a code that says, quantumly connect to any kind of note or any piece of music that is in the Earth's library. Because the Earth has got so many different codes, right? So that lettuce that was grown in Tom's garden, it has picked up quantum information from the place it was grown at. Great. And so if I'm buying a lettuce from Tom, great, I imagine he's got a good garden, but if I'm buying it from somebody else, I don't know where it's come from. However, if I link that lettuce to the vast and infinite library that is the earth, it can give me any information that I ever want. And that's what true grounding is. We're connecting to the Earth's quantum library with all the information we need, and whatever we're missing, we get, and whatever we don't need, we don't need. So a lot of structuring and harmonization of other people's technologies is wonderful. It's turning the volume up of the orchestra. We're able to quantumly connect it to the Earth so you can get stuff that you're missing. The other key thing that we're able to do, and this is part of our work for humanity, and this is going to blow people's minds, and believe me or not believe me, guys, come and follow our work and find out. But we can actually create noise cancellation, frequency cancellation frequencies played in our main orchestra that cancel out the noise of those guys on that side, that work exactly like noise cancelling headphones. And our experiences when people use our products then, so whether using the phone stickers or they're using the quantum water chargers or the higher kind of vibe frequency stuff, they are actually, instead of being programmed by the matrix around them, they are bang deep in nature, and it unlocks their consciousness because they don't have to bother with this noise anymore. Because the critical thing, and I'm not sure if this is going to get me shot one day, but I'm pretty much, I think, the only person talking about this. So I am not I don't want to end my life or anything. So I'm saying this live now. Our biggest issue that we've got, everybody, isn't the Wi-Fi coming out of your mobile phones. It's the lithium batteries. The lithium batteries are made incoherently. They are layered so tightly together. So lithium by itself is a coherent, very strongly coherent and active material. But when you layer it together, it creates very, very strong incoherent waves because they squash it all together. If you think about how orgonite and orgone generators work, they're layered with spaces that allows the field to go round each space and flow. When you squash it together, you get this interference. Now that is based by holding your mobile phone or anything with a rechargeable battery, you are putting one massive dickhead on your racetrack. It is a huge, massive idiot, right? And it's causing a major problem. Batteries could be made more coherently. However, what you can do and what our products do is, although I have that problem, I have in my field, which is way stronger than a mobile phone, if I know what I'm doing, if I connect to the Earth's grid, the quantum field, I have all the power of the Earth now. And that little mobile phone doesn't have any influence on me. And that's what one of our missions is really to start investigating this stuff, because what I've just said is absolutely way out there. You can't use one of those EMF readers to test this stuff out, but you can measure this stuff if you know how to do it, and it's not expensive. It just takes a bit of knowledge and practice.
I
That
think
was a
that's
bit mad, wasn't it?
no. Yes, but in all the right directions, right? All the past pioneers were perceived as a little bit mad to those around them. If people don't say you're mad, you're probably not pioneering hard enough.
Crazy is the new bar, right, Ben?
That's right. Crazy is the new bar. I think what I appreciate the most about what you just said, and I think this is what I'm trying to extract and integrate from these wonderful conversations we have with guests, and applying it to our own terrain and how we sort of improve our own internal terrain, however you want to define that, is that I want to try to be as agnostic of devices and things and purchases as I can. So things like getting sunlight, actually putting my feet on bare ground, becoming something that can harmonize the dickhead. Like rather than having a tool or a device. I mean, copper, we can take things from the earth, copper, and so on, and water, but I want to be able to tune my instrument. I want this vessel right here to be the instrument itself that is harmonizing everything around me, not, you know, a sticker or more blocks of shungite or pyramids and things like that. And I think that's what I'm taking from this last bit that you gave us here. And that's what's most powerful. And I think that's what's most just exciting for me.
Thank you very much for saying that. And if you do our level 1 course, Ben, the beautiful thing is you can start measuring your impact. So we tell people you can do this yourself, and we do experiments. We get people round in a ring, and we've now taught them how to do the dowsing for the 2 different fields, because we've got a positive and negative control, which hasn't really been thought of before. So they know how to feel for that now, and they're all new. And we get them to change the quantum spin of a crappy bottle of water. Now, because they have worked out how to measure with controls, you can independently test this. So we even taste it and say, okay, what direction it is, and then keep people isolated. So there's so many experiments that people can do. And then when you do it yourself, you can have more confidence, because a lot of people go, do it, oh, did I do it or not? Well, you can measure it. You can measure it. Okay, if you do it, is that going to protect you from the mobile phone? Did you do it enough? What did you say this time? I think everything is about measuring stuff. The quantum frequency trace technology that we've developed is just an absolutely magical story. And we tell you about that story from Kelly. It is, but she can't be the only person that knows how to do this. But it's something that's we've never seen anybody that can do what she can do. And if anything happens to Kelly, everyone's screwed, right? So we want other people to learn how to do this. And our products, really, we've created a kind of gold standard way of measuring, and you know that that's a control. If you can figure out how to do it yourself, more power to everybody. So that's why I've done the detox guide. It's free for people to download. You just need to be a standard member, which is free.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give this information away and collaborate with people together. And what we were speaking to a company about today, and again, they're changing humanity, is how can we make this stronger? And we've been able to demonstrate that when you layer this knowledge together, so we're making, I'd say, new generation orgone generators, right? A lot of people have read lots of books, but most of the orgone generators that I'm seeing, 99%, they're not working, guys. You're missing a very, very important thing, but that's for another day. But we make these very, very small devices using gold, copper, silver, and organic material. So in the information for a 4,000-year-old yew tree from 28,000 water sources around the world, basalt, a very strong sand, because the sand from my beach is not the same as yours. And we've got videos of me and other people in an ordinary photograph glowing blue. If you've ever seen Kirlian photography, don't need Kirlian photography. We're actually magnifying our life force energy. So when you know how to do this stuff, you can start playing with it, but you need kind of controls to start off with. And that's what we're interested in, is building a community of people that aren't just reading books from like the 1960s, 1930s and just repeating the old stuff. We can do way more. That is nowhere near as exciting as the pioneering work that we're all doing together.
Yeah, I love that too. I think a lot of folks fall into that trap. They discover these books from the 60s or the 30s and they say that's the end all be all. Whatever's in that book is it, and then they don't try to push it. They don't try to push or build upon it or imagine that maybe they got one thing wrong and let's just keep going with it. And that's what you're doing, is you're just building upon it or improving upon it. That's real science. You do a lot of like one-on-one. You've got this community that you've built. You have students who've taken your courses. What are some of like the testimonials or the transformations that you've witnessed in the folks that have come into your orbit?
I think the main the main feedback we get from people is immediate relief from whatever they were feeling. So a lot of people get drawn to it, and we're really lucky actually, because we seem to attract a lot of very energetically sensitive people who can tell kind of straight away. And we even have people kind of douse our stand like this, and they're like, hang on, I got you guys, you're not in our dimension, are you? We're like, oh, I'm glad that you've noticed, but we can't tell that story to everybody, right? But therefore, when the lay people come back and what they're experiencing is a lot of a lack of clarity, which is the lack of clarity is having the noise from that stupid orchestra playing in your ear. They all of a sudden become very clear and very grounded. And that's where their information, their thoughts can properly process because they can actually think. And I think the most beautiful thing that I've even seen is the fact that people, and I don't like to use this term all the time, but it's the best way to describe it. People that are giving it to their family members are waking up. And the most beautiful example was a lady that I've been trying to, a friend of mine, I've been trying to persuade her to get off the matrix water for a long time. And she was sick. I gave her some water. She's had a lot of injections as well. I gave her the water. She goes, oh my gosh, I felt immediately better. I then managed to persuade her to go and get at least a water filter, but a good one, a really good water filter. And she was drinking that water and she says, oh, it tastes nice, typical 3D answer, it tastes nice. And then I put one of our quantum water chargers on, which is basically grounding her to the earth. That's all I did. Can I give you one of these? Because she doesn't believe in any of that stuff. She went, oh, yeah, okay. Put it on. Within a week, she sent me this meme, which was all about nature is the key to happiness. All we need is nature. And I was thinking, what the hell? But this is normal. We find people then starting, when you split up with somebody and they're always going, these self-help memes, all the people that we we're finding them doing these kind of I'm nature and nature is in me kind of memes. So really there isn't one specific effect. It's about everybody. Everybody has a divine blueprint. We are all connected to the earth. And as we ascend, there is so much chaos out there, but I don't even notice that in the matrix bit. I don't care about that. We are connected to the earth. And as it ascends, that we need to be anchored in because that's where the magic is. That's where the new codes are. That's where the information is. And the transformations will come from being in the earth. And the problem is most people do not have access to sacred ground. It's full of Wi-Fi cables. It is full of, networks. And in the UK, where we're all hemmed in like in rabbit hutches. So to be able to quantumly connect people to the earth who are in a high-rise flat or have one of these pokey gardens with concrete underneath it, is just a real joy to get that kind of feedback.
And
but
really,
nature's always best.
Well, that's what it comes back to, isn't it? Just reconnecting with nature. Like
100%.
nature is the ultimate quantum field that we just need to be plugged into at all times.
100%. And when we can, the reason why we want to teach what we're teaching is because when people can see that they are accidentally quantumly connecting to the matrix and through intention, you can disconnect yourself. That's where the big shift's going to be. In the meantime, what we have is tools to help people do it, but we don't want people reliant on our tools.
For someone who wants to get started with the areas that you're involved in, like where's the best place to start?
So if you go to our website, Crystal Water Experience website, then you will see the products we've got, but also the courses. So at the moment, our level 1 course is 85 quid and gives you a year membership. This is not like this is not like £4,000 and things like that. And it gives you a year, membership with us. And we share with our community because we get, we're on Facebook and all that kind of stuff, but we get censored a lot, as you can imagine. So we share lots of information about how things are unraveling, what's going on in the world, but not in the, the 3D matrix sense, but in the development of new technologies. So the detox guide is there. All the podcasts I've done with people, I'm trying to get people to understand that you can do EFT tapping. There's loads of ways that you can regulate your immune system, your immune system, right? But your nervous system and everything. So there's so much teaching and education stuff on there. And then, like I say, the products of the tool, I would like people really to do the course. Please learn how to do this stuff, because then you can come and tell us what you found. That's how we have to use different methods of being able to evaluate the world around us, because our eyes and ears are just useless for this job.
Yeah, I mean, actually, what you're speaking to is the broader issue at hand, which is that we've outsourced our own curiosity to big science. We've just said we don't need to discover this stuff ourselves. Someone else is going to do it. There's someone else that's funding it, the study. We're just going to wait for the study to get published, and then that's going to tell us what we're supposed to believe. What you're empowering people to do is just be the discoveries, be the pioneers. We're all just going to inform this new direction, as you said, the new Earth. We're all just kind of building it, right? Take a spade and get going. Grab a hammer and get building.
Grab a hammer, get built. I love it. We are pioneers, everybody. Ben, I think what you've just said is just incredible, because when you look back in history, you think, "Oh, I wish I was part of the Industrial Revolution because I could have done some stuff." Guys, you're in it.
This is it.
You're here, and everybody can do something. And when you can get like some cut flowers, and instead of them lasting for 2 or 3 days, you can make them last a month or 6 weeks. You will start going, oh my gosh, what am I capable of? And you don't need lots of fancy gadgets, guys. You really don't. You just need some knowledge and understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, Dr. Joe, you've blown our minds. Hopefully you've blown some minds out there in the audience. We're coming to the close of the episode. But really just the beginning of this journey, this pioneering journey, thanks to you. But we got to ask you the question that we ask all our guests. What are your non-negotiables, the daily habits that you do to tend your train?
Drinking clean, structured water, grounding, and being authentically true to myself and my soul mission, and never swaying from that.
Yeah.
I know I said that very simply, but we all have a divine mission. And when you're on that mission, everything smooths and it goes in that path. I don't mind other people doing whatever they're doing. I'm not judgmental of them. Everybody's got to do what they've got to do. But when I stick to my path and I am in the best place I can be mentally and connected to nature, it changes my whole outlook. So I think every single person is so incredibly powerful. I think we're at the stage where not everybody realizes how powerful and wonderful they are. And I want everybody listening to the podcast to know how much I love them and how valuable they are. Please take care of yourself. Please put your mask on first before helping anybody else. It is the most important thing you can do for humanity.
Amen. Dr. Joe, what are some other or some book recommendations that you'd have the listener read in order to learn a little bit more about some of what we discussed today?
Oh, you see, now I've kind of gone away from books, haven't I?
Yes, you have.
so I presume everyone's read 1984 and all those kind of bad ones, but on the good side, I'm not a massive reader of books, but the one book that has really captured my attention is a guy that I know, and his name is Captain Leo Walton, and he's written a book. He's written several books actually, and it's called the Giza Park Protocol, How to Restart the Sun. So Captain Leo Walton, he's got a fascinating story. And it's a great story for people who think, okay, I'm in a terrible state, maybe physically, mentally, and how can I get out? Because this guy was electrocuted on a boat and was unconscious in a coma for 2 weeks by himself, right? Until they found him. And he had to learn to walk and talk and be himself again. But that completely transformed his life. And that unlocked parts of him to be able to understand how the pyramids work, as they are plasma devices, electricity generators, and healing places. They have 3 functions. So his book, The Giza Park Protocol, How to Restart the Sun, fascinating guy, fascinating information. And it's a really, really easy read. So it's not one of these clunky ones. So, and that will take you in our direction, actually. But but from a different point of view.
Okay, there you go. 2026. There's the beginning of a reading list out there, folks. And then last question. I know you've already mentioned the website, but where can the listener learn more about you?
Well, if you search Crystal Water Experience on Facebook, you probably won't find me. But if you look for like Dr. Joe Whitaker, I seem to pop up, and I'm probably in the bad mouths of on the bad side of things. But hopefully, you'll find some good things. So yeah, a lot of the stuff you actually can link from our website. I've tried to make it easy, but I've got YouTube. We've got Crystal Water Experience podcast, not as famous as yours guys, but I try and get like the smaller guys on to talk about different healing regimes and mad stuff like Captain Leo stuff. So we're all over the place.
Yeah, so are we sometimes. That's a great place to be, though, all over. Well, we'll put the links to all that in the show notes. Dr. Joe Whitaker, thank you so much for being the first guest in 2026 on the Terrain Theory podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.